bottles, profits lathered up. When Alka-Seltzer suggested plop plop fizz fizz, its profit bubbled and doubled overnight. It's also extraordinary what packaging can do. Changing the round Betty Crocker logo to a red spoon put a lot of yeast in the company dough. Other times, companies get lucky. A malfunctioning Polaroid camera had live TV, Ludwig had Ringo, Rolling Stone had Lennon, and California Cooler got lucky with a surfing creative director. When those planets align, it's double your pleasure, double your fun, and double your profits when you're under the influence. I'm Terry O'Reilly. This episode was recorded in the Terrestream Airstream mobile recording studio. Producer Debbie O'Reilly. Sound engineer Jeff Devine. Under the Influence theme by Ari Posner and Ian Lefevre. Tunes provided by APM Music. Follow me on social at Terry O Influence. Hey, want to read next week's fun fact on the air? Just go to apostrophepodcasts.ca and follow the prompts. See you next week.
Hi, this is Michael McIsaac from Rice Point, Prince Edward Island.
Fun fact.
Ringo Starr's 1964 Ludwig drum kit sold at auction recently for $2.2 million.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg.
I'm Kathleen Goldhar from Crime Story. This week I'm joined by journalist Jeffrey Toobin, and we talk about the story of Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing, how a decorated Army veteran became consumed with rage and built a bomb that killed more than 100 people, including 19 children. What can we learn from the Timothy McVeigh story? That's this week on Crime Story, available wherever you get your podcasts.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC...
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at 14 degrees with partly cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. Manitoba's premier is in France for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. The Royal Winnipeg Rifles were among the first Canadian troops to storm the beaches at Normandy. The Fort Garry Horse was not far behind. Premier Wab Kinew says it's important to recognize the sacrifice those soldiers made, to remember them. He is also the first Manitoba premier to lay a wreath at the site where 24 Canadian soldiers, many who were Winnipeg Rifles, were executed as prisoners of war. Kinew says he felt an instant connection.
To look at the list of names and to recognize family names of friends and people that I think any Manitoban would be able to place it to their social network, it really just hits home at how widespread these events were. And so absolutely it's important as the leader of the province to acknowledge what took place at this massacre.
Kinew says he was humbled to speak with almost 100-year-old Winnipeg Rifles veteran Jim Parks, who made the trip to France to be part of the ceremonies. And Manitoba's Métis were also part of D-Day ceremonies in France. That's Manitoba Métis fiddler Morgan Grace and guitarist Mitchell McCoons playing at a ceremony earlier today on Juno Beach. Richard Janai is the Minister of Youth and Sport for the Manitoba Métis Federation.
It was so overwhelming, like this. I only seen it on TV and I read about it in books and learned about it in school, but to actually be here and step on a beach where so many Red River Métis, you could say they were youth, gave up their lives for the war, the Great War.
The MMF says it sponsored the delegation to go to France to ensure the contributions of Métis soldiers are remembered. In other news, a 19-year-old from Minnegozabe, Anishinaabe, has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Orion Flamand was arrested after a 34-year-old man was shot and killed on June 2nd in the community. A 52-year-old woman was also found dead nearby. The suspect was arrested after shots were fired at Winnipeg OSIS RCMP, and he tried to take off on an off-road vehicle. And a 42-year-old man and a 23-year-old woman have been charged after an investigation into illegal operation of a cannabis store out of a home. RCMP searched a home in Flin Flon in April. They seized more than $430,000 of product, more than $90,000 in cash, as well as thousands of individually packaged gummies, hundreds of cannabis chocolate bars, vials of chatter, and multiple pounds of psilocybin, or magic mushrooms. Police also seized 25 firearms. They seized 25 firearms. Police say none of the cannabis products had proper Manitoba taxation stamps. The accused head to court in August. Saskatchewan RCMP have released a new report into their handling of the James Smith Cree Nation massacre. It shows several communication breakdowns among officers, but suggests they did not affect the outcome. Rhonda Blackmore is the head of the province's Mounties.
Despite the magnitude of the situation and the fact that things were unfolding rapidly and chaotically, it's my opinion that the RCMP response and that of our partner emergency services was nothing short of outstanding.
The rampage in September of 2022 left 11 people dead. The killer died shortly after he was taken into custody. Calgarians are being urgently asked to conserve water indoors and outdoors. The city of Calgary says a major water main break in the city's northwest yesterday has left Calgary's water supply in a critical state. Here's the CBC's Karina Zapata with the latest.
An Alberta emergency alert issued early this morning asks Calgarians not to shower, bathe, wash dishes, or run appliances that use water. Sue Henry, chief of the Calgary Emergency Management Agency, says that decision was made this morning.
We were watching the storage facilities overnight, and they weren't recovering as fast as we needed them.
Alberta Health Services has issued a boil water advisory for the community of Bowness. The city has moved to Stage 4 water restrictions, meaning no watering of any kind outdoors. But the city is asking everyone for their help. In a press conference, Mayor Jyoti Gondak says she's strongly urging Calgarians to restrict indoor use to basic necessities.
We are not saying that you can't give your kids a bath. What we are saying is that we would ask you to consider where you might not need to use water indoors.
There's also a citywide fire ban in place. The city says the cause of the large and complicated break is still unknown. It could not give an estimate as to when it would be repaired. Karina Zapata, CBC News, Calgary.
And Brandon may have its first ride-hailing company by the end of the year. U-Ride was at City Council on Monday presenting a pitch to expand into Manitoba. But Brandon bylaws have to change before the ride-hail starts to roll. Marielle Metcalf is the city's communications officer.
Brandon has a taxi bylaw, and it's applicable solely to taxi cab owners and drivers with the aim of safeguarding public safety within the city. Should there be an interest to see other alternative rideshare enterprises, then this taxi bylaw would need to be updated.
U-Ride will appear before the Taxi Appeal Committee by the end of September. In Winnipeg, windy with mostly clear skies, but we do have a risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon, a high of 17 degrees. Brandon, a chance of showers and windy, a high of 18. Dauphin, you could see rain, wind, a high of 16. Flin Flon, a chance of showers, a high of 9. Thompson, rain off and on, a high of 6. And in Churchill, periods of rain and windy with a high of plus 3 degrees.
Hello, Manitoba. Thanks for joining us today for Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 9:90 a.m., I should say, as Faith Fundal does. Hello also to the good folks in Northwestern Ontario. So glad you could join us today. Another school year is almost over, but a problem remains. Manitoba's struggling with a shortage of teachers. What do we need to do to better support the teachers we have and to encourage more people to enter the profession? Join our calling conversation after your 12:30 news and weather to weigh in. The first ever children's business market was held this week in Morden. We'll check back in with the parent behind the project, hear how the community responded, and what emotional moment sticks with her. But Radio Noon begins today with what all this rain we've been getting means to Manitoba farmers. Heavy rainfall is soaking Manitoba's far north, leading to alerts about possible flooding in low-lying areas and washouts near rivers, creeks, and culverts. It is raining right now in Churchill, Thompson, Gillam, and Lynn Lake. Rain's also being reported now at the Winnipeg Airport and the airport in Portage-la-Prairie. And there is a 30% chance of showers in Westman this afternoon, too. What does all this moisture mean to Manitoba's farmers? I spoke with the president of the Keystone Agricultural Producers, Jill Verwey.
Happy to be here. Beautiful day out today.
Well, that's a thing. A beautiful day. We've had a number of days that have been rainy. And, I'm a city kid. I've never been involved in agriculture. When you were hearing that May had twice as much rain as normal, I'm wondering as a farmer, when you're trying to get something as crucial as seeding done and it just keeps raining, how stressful is that?
The stress level this time of year is always significantly higher for farmers in general. And I think it's all winter. It's the anticipation to get out in the field. We've just come out of a winter that the moisture levels were excessively low. We're in a dry cycle. So of course, last year, limited water moisture in the ground. So, I think my husband said it quite well this morning. The last thing you want to do is wish for the weather to change, because what's going to happen is the weather is always going to change, right? That's the only thing that's consistent about it. The farm machinery and the technology that's available for farmers to get their crop in fast and efficient is phenomenal nowadays. And so in a couple days, in an hour with some of the equipment that you have, you can get a whole quarter section done. So it's the anticipation to get the crop in. We needed the moisture. We've got the moisture now. For the most part, our seeding is probably in excess of 80% right now for the province. So we're right on target with a 5-year average. And I think even over the last numbers I have were a little dated. So even over the weekend, those numbers probably are higher. Vast majority of cereals are in the ground and well on their way with a really good start. So we're looking at some really good potentials for our cereal crops that are out there, and canola with them being in and having the right temperatures to get going. Pulse crops, I think, are a little bit behind just because we haven't had some heat. But like I said, you don't ask for heat because heat is going to come. We live in Manitoba, and so it's going to inevitably come. So I think everybody's in a good place there. It's just that the incremental rain slows up getting out there to spray. Guys are full ahead in spraying on their cereal crops. And of course, those pesky beetles on the canola are causing some guys some grief, and they've been out spraying for a number of weeks, depending on when we had it in the ground. So I think we're set up for a really good year. And having said that, there are pockets of the province that guys haven't gotten out. They've only got 25% in, but they're limited spots. But again, when you're talking to farmers in general, you don't know who you're talking to, and you might be talking to the guy that hasn't been able to get out and get anything done. So keeping that in mind, I think it's very incremental from one end of the province to the other, and up as far as the paw. But I think it's looking good this year with the moisture that we've had, and with the temperatures we've had. Everybody, if you're a farmer or producer, you're optimistic, and you're looking forward to getting the crop in the bin by the end of the year.
What pockets have had so much rain that they haven't been able to get their seeding done?
I think there are some isolated areas kind of up in that Russell area that, again, I don't know specifically, just in general, talking to guys that, and in the Interlake again, as well, Beausejour, they've had some really significant rainfall. Even north of Portage, we've got some acreage up there that It's some of the best land in the province, but yet we've had excessive rain go through, and some of that lake effect that you traditionally would see kind of in the interlake, where sometimes you get all or nothing, right? And so there's guys still waiting to get out, but we still have we have a good window here to get the rest of the crop in and get some good yields. So seeding dates, deadlines for crop insurance are coming up here the middle of June for cereals and for canola. Like I said, soybeans, the date just kind of passed here at the beginning of the week. But I think for the most part, most of those acres were in on the soybean side, and so we're looking at to finish up some of the later crop. Guys will be making some changes if they have to get those cereals in, but still lots of time to get a good crop of wheat or even canola off this year with some time here, a couple weeks to get it done.
When you say they'll be making some changes, it just means that if they'd planned to grow X, if they couldn't get that in the ground, then they'll go to Y.
Yeah, like talk to a number of producers where they even had to switch on the fly, right? Where they had planned on a field going into wheat, and they switched it to soybeans, last week, so that they could get it in time for the deadlines. And then we still have some time to get those cereals in here in the next until the middle 20th of June. So we're still got some time.
We, as you mentioned, came out of an excessively dry season, dry winter. Are we back up now, moisture level wise, where we're where we want to be in terms of having water in reserve?
I think we've seen, especially like our dugouts for cattle producers, they're back filled again in most parts of the province. We've got some moisture in the pastures. We'll be able to tell later this year, but certainly we'll probably need some timely rain here through the year to get this crop off. And looking forward to some more moisture in the fall, and then we'll be back up. I think a good indication is we driving around, you can see there's water. There is some runoff coming off the fields. And particularly where tile drainage is in place, we're seeing some water flowing off fields. So that's a good indication that the moisture levels are there for those, that first 1.5 feet of soil. So, what stressed a lot of guys is if you were doing any digging here earlier on in the spring before we had this moisture, you could go down to like a 4-foot level and it was just powder dry. So it's going to take a while to get, moisture down there. But I think it gives us the opportunity to have some reserve there for if we do get some big downpours. It's always nice to have some reserve in that soil so that it can hold some water and you'll be able to use it later on rather than seeing runoff. You don't like to see excessive runoff off the fields. You want to be able to keep it in your soil and be able to use it for the crop. So,
Jill Verwey, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
You too. Jill Verwey is president of Keystone Agricultural Producers. She and her family farm near Portage la Prairie.
Sing and sway to R&B on Marvin's Room. Move and groove to the rhythm of Saturday Night Jazz. Crest with the best next wave of Indigenous music on Reclaim. Savor the flavor of the Francophone world on C'est Formidable. And treasure the arias and encores on Tempo Weekends. Saturday Night Means Music on CBC Radio 1 and on the CBC Listen app.
It is 12:15. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Janet Stewart. Thanks for being with us today. Manitoba is struggling with a shortage of teachers. What do we need to do to better support the teachers we have and to encourage more people to enter the profession? What have you experienced as a teacher or a parent? Join our call-in conversation after your 12:30 news and weather today. Speaking of weather, there is a rainfall warning for Dooley Lake and Churchill still in effect. They could get another 30 to 50 millimeters of rain for Dooley Lake today, 10 to 20 millimeters for Churchill. There's a slim chance of a thunderstorm in southern Manitoba late this afternoon. Today it is in the Red River Valley going to clear. There's that risk of the thunderstorm. A mainly clear night, however, in the forecast. A few clouds in the forecast for tomorrow and a high of 22 degrees. For Saturday, it looks like it will be mainly sunny in the Winnipeg area, 22 degrees as a high. Mainly sunny as well on Monday. So look, a dry stretch. That will be something that many of us will be looking forward to. Riley Lachuk is our weather specialist, and he'll be in here after the 12:30 news to take an exhaustive look at the Manitoba forecast, let you know what's coming your way, what you need to know for planning your day and the weekend ahead. The very first Morden Children's Business Market was held this week at Maple Leaf Elementary School in Morden. Students aged 6 to 11 came up with ideas for products to sell, and then they manufactured them. They learned about customer service, about marketing, about making decisions like how much to give to charity. The students decided to make the market a fundraiser, helping Community Resource Center and Food Bank many hands, and also giving to the Boundary Trails Hospital Foundation. According to the school's principal, the principal at Maple Leaf Elementary, the market project was such a success, it should be adopted by the entire school division. Grace Keeling is the parent who applied for an innovation grant months ago to cover expenses for this, and with help from others, made the children's business market happen. We talked with Grace Monday before the market. You might remember that. Well, here's our conversation from when I checked in Tuesday to see how things went.
It was fantastic. It was really booming. We had about 55 vendors, about 80 kids. We had about 30 volunteers and lots of customers.
Lots of customers. Yay.
Yeah, lots of kids sold out in 1 hour.
Wow. And these, again, are kids from the age of 6 to 11.
Yes.
Remind us what kinds of businesses they set up.
We had fidget items like toys, balloons. We had drawings, candles. We had secret books. We had bracelets. We had Pokemon cards, sun catchers. Lots of really neat stuff.
What was the response you heard from the customers who wandered through?
We had a couple customer surveys sent out, and the kids got to do a survey too. And there was a lot of messages that said, love it, love it, love it.
Well, as the organizer of this whole thing, that must make you feel awfully good.
It was really inspiring to see the hubbub and the twinkle in the kids' eyes and just the energy, the exchange of just supporting one another. And even in the community, it was really nice to connect all these people. So it was just lovely to see.
So all these kids have learned lessons. What do you think they learned from this experience?
Well, yesterday, so we had categories for each award. We had 6 awards. And so it was things like most enthusiastic, most best booth, most inventive. So I want to share one story with one little girl. She was in our workshop. She's this shy little girl, and I believe her parents are immigrants too. So English is a second language for her. She had little bookmarks, and she actually won the most enthusiastic, and she was actually chosen for multiple categories, but she was selected for most enthusiastic. And when we presented the award to her, there was a cash prize. So cash prize is $85 for herself, and also $40 for her to donate in her name. So we had 2 jars at the front, one for Many Hands and the other one for the hospital. And so she came up and she was like, whoa, blown away. And I waved her father over, and her father came over with her, and they were in this experience where they're in front of the two jars. And I was explaining, okay, open this envelope. And the dad was about to open it for her. And I was like, no, 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 this is for her. She earned it. And so he handed it over, and then she was just very proud to open it. And then she had the 20, 10, and 5s to split it. And she was like, oh, what should I do? Which jar? And she's like, can I split it? It's like, yes, you can split it. So just the experience of having that buying power or that giving power. And her dad was just so lit up and proud. And the experience of buying and sharing is transferable across different cultures too. So it was a spectacle to see. It was
That's beautiful. You yourself moved to Morden not too long ago, within the last couple of years. So you're fairly new, still getting to know people in the community. How are you feeling about your new home right about now?
It's actually, I love Morden a lot. There's a lot of friendly people here. I felt so welcome here, and my neighbors, they're so great. When I first had my baby, they came over with casseroles and gifts and stuff. So that was just, it was so nice. Actually, my husband is RCMP, and we just got reposted again. So we're going to another small city in Manitoba, and it's a sad to say goodbye, but that's the way of the life of the Mountie, right? So we're moving onwards.
Do you think you will take this idea of starting a kids market to your new town as well?
I think I will likely choose projects that fit the community too. So I would just assess what they need, and I'm all about just community and working together, and seeing that twinkle in those kids' eyes. That's like more than money can buy.
What about Morden? Have you been hearing from the community itself if it will try to keep the kids market going at
Yes,
Maple Leaf Elementary?
they're going to try to do it every year. So we've got teachers that are really enthusiastic about it. One of the teachers is Carrie Jerema, and the other teacher is Tara Routier. And the principal's has been so supportive of this, Cindy Dick. And Carrie's daughter and Tara's daughter were both in the market, and they are just the sweetest little kids that are so enthusiastic about the idea. And if their parents don't support it, I'm sure those kids will force them to go volunteer some more and make it happen. But yeah.
How much money did you manage to raise then for the two charities, Many Hands and the Hospital Foundation?
So the kids and parents contributed $287.80 to Many Hands, and that's in 1 hour. I mean, that's nuts. And then $334.10 to Boundary Trails Hospital, and then Morden Area Foundation, they came out and they matched those. So whatever that is, times 2.
That's fantastic. Grace Keeling, thank you so much for joining us today and for everything you've done for this program and the community.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for shedding light onto the story and seeing the value in it. Thank you.
Lives for now in Morden, Manitoba. She wouldn't tell me where she's moving to. She did mention it's a place with a cold climate in Manitoba. So she might be heading up north. Good for north. I called the principal of Maple Leaf Elementary today just to confirm the market's likely to happen again, even without Grace. Cindy Dick told me the project was so well received by the students and the community that the kids learned so much working on it. She thinks they should make it happen annually and that the idea should be spread across the school district.
Something happens when it feels so right. You're wide awake, dreaming in the middle of the night. Well, it could have been the whiskey or the pale grass moon, but that's what happened when I met you. Won't you take me to the old dance hall? Got a lifetime to figure it out. Just wanna swing in your arms so I don't forget. They say it's gonna change, don't let it change yet. 'Cause I can love you for good, I can love you for always, I can love you the rest of my nights and the rest of my days. I could sing you like the morning dove, I could watch you like the stars above, I could hold you with all that I'm made of. Something happens when it feels so right. I'm wide awake dreaming in the middle of the night. Well, it could have been the whiskey or the pale grass moon. It could have been the spell of the lilac bloom. It could have been the spell of the lilac bloom. But I could love you for good, I can love you for always, I can love you the rest of my nights and the rest of my days. I could sing you like the morning dove, I could watch you like the stars above, I could hold you with all that I'm made of.
Beautiful song by Ruth Moody and Joey Landreth, The Spell of the Lilac Bloom. It's time for our call-in conversation. The phone line's about to open, 204-780-0893. Manitoba is struggling with a shortage of teachers. What do we need to do to keep the teachers we have, to support them better, and to encourage more people to enter the profession? 204-780-0893. Right now, it's 12:30.
At 12:30, we're at 13 degrees with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. Most Manitoba farmers are welcoming the recent wet weather. Some areas in the south received twice as much rain as normal in May, and that didn't slow down seeding in most regions. Jill Verway is president of Keystone Agricultural Producers. She says after a dry fall and winter, the rain is needed.
I think it's looking good this year with the moisture that we've had and with the temperatures we've had. Everybody, if you're a farmer or producer, you're optimistic.
Burway says 80% of crops are seeded at this time. She says there are pockets of land that have been flooded out by excessive rain in the Russell, Beausejour, Interlake, and Portage areas. A 19-year-old from Minnegozabe, Anishinaabe, has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Orion Flamand was arrested after a 34-year-old man was shot and killed on June 2nd in the community. A 52-year-old woman was also found dead nearby. The suspect was arrested after shots were fired at Winnipeg OSIS RCMP, and he tried to take off on an off-road vehicle. A cyclist in Winnipeg has been rushed to hospital in critical condition after being hit by a vehicle on Wellington Crescent and Coburn Street. Winnipeg police say it happened around 7 this morning. A number of streets are closed around the area at Wellington Crescent, including Grosvenor, Hugo, and Dorchester. Police expect to release more information later today. And as you've been hearing, Premier Wab Kinew is in France for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. He says Manitoba and Winnipeg soldiers played important roles in the storming of the beaches of Normandy. The Royal Winnipeg Rifles and Fort Garry Horse were among the first Canadian regiments to come ashore. Kinew also had the chance to speak with Winnipeg Rifles veteran Jim Parks.
And so to be here on this day, to have a chance to speak with Jim, who's very sharp, sense of humor, very interesting conversationalist. It was really amazing, and really just sends a deep sense of humility to me that as somebody, my job only exists because of the sacrifice that they made.
Kinew is also the first Manitoba premier to lay a wreath at the site in France where 24 soldiers, most members of the Winnipeg Rifles, were executed as prisoners of war. And that is your CBC News for Winnipeg. For news anytime, head on over to the CBC News app, the CBC website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or use the CBC News app. That's what I was trying to say.
You said it. You said it beautifully. Matthew.
Nothing better.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Matt Humphrey.
Back soon.
From our CBC Newsroom. Riley Lachuk has also joined us. Riley, as you know, is our weather specialist. What's going on in our weather today, my friend?
So we're looking at continued wet weather, Janet, in northern Manitoba. I'll give you a couple stats. So far, just about 50 millimeters in Churchill as of this morning. Expect another 10 to 20 through the afternoon today.
It's a lot of moisture.
It's a lot of moisture. We still have that rainfall warning in place for Churchill and Tuduli Lake. Another 30 to 50 coming for the Tuduli Lake region. So we're looking at, as I said, yes, continued wet weather along the Hudson Bay coast, far northern Manitoba, places like Lynn Lake, Thompson getting some periods of rain through the day as well. Here in the south, we're looking at just a few clouds through the afternoon. I know it's a bit cloudy right now, but we'll start to see things clearing out as we get through the afternoon hours here. By the time we hit, say, supper time, just after supper time tonight, we're looking at skies clearing out and a mainly sunny evening. Mainly sunny start to the morning. Still a few more showers yet to come along the Hudson Bay coast into the early morning tomorrow, followed by some periods of rain for the Island Lake region, Thompson, Tuduli Lake, and perhaps some instability making its way through central Manitoba. As we start Saturday, we're looking at mainly sunny skies as well, and that kind of sets us up, Janet, for a bit of a drier pattern as we head into the next several days at least. Our next chance for showers after today coming on Monday, so we're looking at some drier conditions ahead. In terms of rain to come, taking us out to Saturday morning, we're looking at about another 15 to 30 millimeters across northern Manitoba. Generally, 12 millimeters for Gillam is what the forecast modeling suggests. Another 23 for Churchill, and into that 30 to 50 range for the Tuduli Lake and Brochet regions. Here in the south, we're still contending with very gusty winds today, northwest 30 gusting to 50 through the afternoon. Those do die down as we get through the overnight period. Starting a little bit less windy tomorrow morning, but we'll see the winds picking up again, northwest 20 to 40 by the time we hit the afternoon. And we'll see winds start to die off a bit in the north as well. 13 right now in Winnipeg, 15 in both Portage and Brandon. Thompson's at 4 and Churchill at 1 degree this hour. Looking at a high of 3 in Churchill with that rain continuing through today. 6 the high in Thompson. 17 in Winnipeg. We'll start to see some sunny breaks through the late afternoon today. Then we're looking at sunny skies for Friday. Saturday, mix of sun and clouds. Sunday, mix of sun and clouds. And Monday and Tuesday, mix of sun and clouds with a slim chance of showers. And temperatures, by the time we reach Monday, Tuesday, back up to 24 and 25 degrees.
Is that just about normal for now?
Just about normal. Pretty close to normal for this time of the year.
Okay. Just a little higher, a little
lower? Bit higher than normal.
Oh,
Normal's
isn't
23.
That nice?
So
I'll take it. Riley Lachuk, thank you so much.
No problem.
Riley will be tracking our forecast for us and all the developments. He'll be back during Up to Speed, the program that airs here on CBC Radio 1 between 3 and 6 p.m. And then he'll be on television news, which, of course, you can watch on TV or on CBC Manitoba's YouTube page or on our website, whenever you like. That starts at 6, though, on TV. It is a big problem, not only in this province, but around the country. We are struggling with a shortage of teachers. Our question for you, Manitoba, what do we need to do to better support the teachers we have and to encourage more people to enter the profession? We want to know, what have you experienced as a teacher, as a principal, a vice principal, trying to hire teachers, as a parent? 204-780-0893 is the number to call. Nathan Martindale, president of the Manitoba Teachers Society, joins me in studio. Nathan, wonderful for you to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We asked you to put the headphones on because that'll help you hear the callers. If you need to adjust the volume, it's that bottom button that says phones.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And speaking of phones, we've got them coming in. The calls are already coming in. This is clearly a topic Manitobans care about. Let's see. Megan, thank you for calling Radio Noon. Oh, Megan, we've lost Megan on line 3. Megan, I apologize if I did something. Perhaps that's Megan calling back. Jackie is calling as well. Perhaps we'll go to Jackie. Hello, Jackie. I suspect you might be Dr. Jacqueline Kirk. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yes, that's me.
Dr. Jacqueline Kirk teaches at the University of Brandon, and she has some thoughts Nathan, for what she's hearing from students. What are you hearing from the people you teach who are entering the profession?
Well, I guess both the ones entering, I'm the chair of the graduate program in education, and I guess I have some frustrations about the challenges that internationally educated teachers face. We have a lot of international students in our program, and I've been trying to, help them find work in Canada. And also, I work with a lot of teachers in the system, and just looking at the challenges that they're facing in schools right now, it seems like behavior and discipline and student self-regulation is on the rise. Like the students aren't as self-regulated. And I think we pulled out a lot of students out of classes and we're putting them back in the name of inclusion. But I'm afraid that they're not always getting the support in the classrooms, like that the supports didn't move back into the classrooms with them, and they truly needed the extra support. And I think that's being put on teachers. I think teachers' work is really stressful right now, and I think people are leaving the profession because of it.
Jacqueline, you've got so much to contribute to this conversation. I'm so thrilled that you did have a chance to call us in today. Nathan, let's talk about internationally trained students. What can we do to smooth the way and to help them get jobs educating our kids?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jacqueline, for phoning in and raising those 2 points. We'll talk about the first one first, is those internationally trained teachers. And unfortunately, Manitoba has some of the most stringent requirements to become a teacher as compared to other provinces. So we've already started talking to the province, the new provincial government, about how can we reduce some of those different barriers while still making sure that we have qualified teachers going into those jobs. So that's ongoing work that we need to do to make sure that people moving to Canada from other countries who have been teaching in those countries can apply and work in Manitoba as teachers. That's very important. And the second set of concerns that you raised were things that I would have spoken about as well. So it's also important, we need to shift the conversation, not necessarily a shortage of teachers, but also a shortage of good working conditions for teachers. And Dr. Jacqueline touched on a couple of those related to behavior of students in the classroom. And I was on the radio with Marcy Marcusa last week talking about a rise in violent incidents in classrooms in Manitoba. And it's not specific to Manitoba. This is a nationwide problem.
It is a nationwide problem. Well, let's start there because, of course, we need everyone to be safe in their workplaces. Where is this violence coming from? I mean, and how do we... Dr. Jacqueline, I know when we spoke earlier, you were concerned about kids who were falling through the cracks because the teachers weren't able to give them the one-on-one attention they need. Because...
That's right. I think that happens every time the conditions inside a classroom become so complex that it's not possible for one teacher to be able to meet the needs of all the students, then somebody falls off the teacher's list, right? Or becomes the people that are just too much and would just aren't meeting their needs or aren't moving them forward to the point that they need to be moved forward. And my concern with that is what happens to that in the future, because I think that their life outcomes are limited, and they end up with health problems, they end up with social problems, economic problems, they end up dealing with the justice system, and I really think that we need to improve those conditions so that both, we can keep teachers teaching and so that we can improve the quality of education for all students.
And there's going to be someone listening who didn't do well in school but went on to have a wonderful, productive life. But wouldn't it be great if every kid who went to school in Manitoba at some point in their educational career was told by a teacher, wow, you've got potential, and felt good about themselves and had that self-esteem because they got it. But some kids have learning disabilities, and need help, need more attention.
Absolutely. There's many students in the public education system that need support. And over the last few years, and MTS has been vocal about this, it's come down to funding. The previous government chronically underfunded the public education system for the past 7 years, which means less supports for students that need them. For example, clinicians, such as psychologists, the waiting list for students who really need those clinical assessments 2 or 3 years or more, and that's not acceptable. Less EAs working with the students that need them. I was an EA before I was a teacher.
An educational assistant.
Educational assistant, yes. Speech language pathologists, literacy specialists, the list goes on. So there's less of that support happening in classrooms, which is one of the reasons children are less supported and could lead to more violent incidences. So we've always been advocating for funding. That's something we'll continue to push for. Adequate funding that is at or above the rate of inflation so that those supports are there for kids that need them.
Megan is calling us now. Thank you, Megan, for joining Radio Noon.
Hi there.
Hi. Megan, what would you like to contribute to this? What are your thoughts on the teacher shortage?
When I talk to my colleagues, it's all about we feel akin to nurses. Now, we don't get that horrible shift change. Oh, wait, no, you're not going home. The problem is we also... Sorry. We can't have families of our own.
Well, I hear you with clearly there's a child in the back seat or with you. You've pulled over to the side of the road or you're somewhere where you can talk safely and legally, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you. Just checking. Are you a teacher, Megan?
I am a teacher.
Okay. How have you seen the profession change?
I've seen the profession change in that the kids have less support at home because everyone is having a hard time right now. With inflation, with everybody still getting over the trauma of COVID, there's less to go around. And when the kids come to school, we have less to meet them with. And they keep... Government, our divisions keep asking more and more and more. There is no limit to how much time they ask from us. And it means that we don't get to see our children. Mom, what do you feel?
And children
we don't get to see our children. We see other people's children, and I love them to pieces. But I get to see my child for an hour a day because I still have 2 to 3 hours of marking and entering and administration.
So
that's really hard.
We've got to let you go because your child needs you. But one thing that would make your life easier as a teacher.
Smaller class sizes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Megan.
First of all, thank you, Megan, for what you do as a teacher. You're appreciated, and sometimes you might not feel appreciated. And what you raised about smaller class sizes, another topic that MTS has advocated for many years and will continue to advocate is smaller class sizes so that there's more one-on-one attention for the students, for all students, especially the students that need that one-on-one time to help them succeed.
That was one of the things that Dr. Kirk brought up as well when I was talking to her. She would love to see, and she says that any little bit helps, but ideally from 30 kids to 15. And that's a big ask. That doubles the number of classes. But she said then you could sit in a small circle and those kids at the back who sometimes get lost, they're making eye contact with you and there's a relationship. She seems to think that makes a real difference.
Absolutely. And class size is just one part of that. It's also the complexity of classrooms now and the different needs that students have. So not only the numbers, but the students and their needs. And that goes back to needing more supports for students instead of less. So there's some work to do with that, and MTS will keep pushing on that.
Russell is joining us. Russell, thank you for calling Radio Noon.
Yeah, no problem. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm an EA with the Winnipeg School Division, and over the past couple of years, I've kind of observed, the different changes that have occurred, before COVID and after COVID. It seems a lot easier for students to be able to just withdraw from anything that's happening right in front of them, just because of the habits of being able to just go on your phone or go on your iPad and just completely disconnect. And that happens a lot in classrooms too when students don't get the supports that they need. teachers at the front of the classroom trying to tend to everyone, but it's next to impossible. I've had a lot of conversations with teachers as well. I'm also working towards becoming a teacher, and I kind of get a lot of are you sure you want to do this? It's a lot of work and a lot of hours, and we have to put a lot of extra effort out there, and often not really seeing any results. And teachers often feel that regardless of the student needs in the classroom, an EA in every classroom would be really beneficial to help build the rapport with students, to make them feel like they're valued and heard, and that keeps kids coming back.
I want to jump on something that you talked about, the difference between COVID and after COVID, and how it's easier for the kids to just sort of tune out. They see. Do you think that's a social thing, that they learned it's okay to just be on your phone? Or
I would say so. Yeah. It's kind of like it's kind of just accepted now. Having phones in school, and it's just I remember at one point it was like, put away your phone. You're not allowed to have your phone in class. But now that's kind of out the window, and in turn, it's taking away attention spans, like not being able to focus on one topic because there's something on a phone or a Snapchat or what have you. It's pretty tricky to balance that.
Well, I want to jump into cell phones that as our next topic. So thanks for bringing that up. Before you go, Russell, in case we lose you during this, all the negative stuff you hear about teachers, like I hope that there are other people like me sitting there as well going, yeah, but without Miss Clark, where would I be? For every kid that you struggle with, there are probably 10 who connect with you so beautifully and are so grateful for everything you do, Russell. And that goes for every teacher out there listening. So thank you for the hard work that you do put in.
No problem. Yeah, it's for the greater good. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, on the issue of cell phones, we had this actually as our conversation topic yesterday. The Hanover School Division has just voted in favor of banning cell phones for students in kindergarten to grade 8. For grades 9 to 12, it'll be up to the individual schools and teachers to manage cell phone use. But, what impact have cell phones, Nathan, had on a teacher's ability to teach and manage students?
Well, yes, hot topic right now, absolutely. There's different divisions that are implementing different policies. And at the provincial level, there's been different provincial governments talking about blanket policies. So we'll see what our education department does here in Manitoba. But I have heard anecdotally from teachers, especially at the high school level, where obviously every child probably has a cell phone, and it's hard even for a division to make a blanket policy and then ask for teachers to enforce that policy or police that policy. So that's going to be something that's going to be a challenge for our members going down the road. But I think Russell, his comments were true since the pandemic. Life has changed for everyone, and the reliance on technology and the dependence on technology has trickled down to students at a younger and younger age. So remains to be seen what's going to happen in Manitoba with cell phones.
Well, that is something that one teacher who called in yesterday felt very strongly about. Daniel Friesen's our studio technician today. Daniel, you've got that clip. This is what a teacher who phoned in yesterday had to say.
The hardest part of my job is the cell phone. Not every teacher does do the same thing. There are many teachers that have, frankly, just thrown in the towel on the argument because nobody really wants to fight about these things and have to call administration, et cetera, to come and deal with it. So there's lots of teachers that have just decided that they will let people make their own decisions. And if you miss content that's important, that is the decision you've made. But the reality is their prefrontal lobes are not fully developed until 25. We make a lot of really terrible decisions when we're younger. And at that point, your phone and what's going on your phone might actually feel more important to you because I'm going to be honest, it's an addiction, might feel more important than what I'm teaching you at the time. It's not till, 5-6 years later that you might realize that you really wish you had actually graduated on time or completed the work, or that you could have been far more successful if somebody else who was an adult who had made that decision for you.
What struck me about that, Nathan Martindale, is The hardest thing I deal with is cell phones. To hear that from a high school teacher in Manitoba. And that's something that you would think we could do something about.
And as I mentioned, that's what I've also heard from high school teachers is the problem on phones. So once again, we have different decisions being made at the individual school level and even at the individual teacher level, but also, as you mentioned, different divisions are implementing policies. And at some point, and I won't make any predictions, there could be a decision made by our provincial government, just as other provinces have decided. And what our concern would be is the expectations on teachers to police such a policy. So we'll see where we go with that.
But that seems to be happening now. There's a lot of policing that teachers have to deal with if there's no policy or if the policy does allow the kids to bring the phone in.
Absolutely. So our local presidents across the province for the different school divisions will be having those conversations with superintendents and school trustees. And at the provincial level, we'll obviously weigh in at the time that the province brings that topic up with us.
How often are uncertified teachers used as substitutes here in Manitoba?
Too often. That's another topic that we've not only raised with our education partners, but with the Minister of Education, and they're aware of the problem, and that's directly tied to the recruitment and retention problem. So we're advocating for qualified, certified teachers, and there's no magic wand to solve this, but it's all interconnected.
There's no magic wand to solve this. No, that's true, but we have to get I'm looking for a nice bow to tie up our conversation. There's no bow.
Well, there's no bow. And maybe to tie it up, I was in Toronto last week meeting with my colleagues from across Canada, the other teacher organizations and unions. And the Canadian Teachers Federation is working on a pan-Canadian strategy on teacher recruitment and retention. And it's going to involve a lot of work with teacher unions and provincial governments, but also at the local level and universities as well.
And this is indeed something that's happening across the country.
Every single province and territory is experiencing this, yes.
Oh, what would your message be for parents?
My message is to parents, as always, connect with your teacher. You have concerns or you want to talk about your child in school, please talk to your teacher. And you know what? Every teacher out there in Manitoba is doing their very best to meet the educational needs of the students. And that parent-teacher relationship is really important, and we want that good relationship to continue.
Nathan Martindale, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Nathan Martindale is the president of the Manitoba Teachers Society, the union supporting teachers in our province. If you have something that you've just thought of, if you want to comment on anything you heard here today or keep the conversation going, remember you can leave a message for me anytime at 204-788-3797.
Who cries more, winners or losers?
Cry if you want to cry.
Can heartbreak help break records?
You want to be great? You need to sacrifice.
Do bigger fans have higher blood pressure?
How's your heart rate?
Why do we love rooting for underdogs?
Gotta support the home team.
What makes top dogs go the distance? How far will champions go to win?
I was just curious.
Does it matter if they have nothing to lose?
Is that a yes?
When you get curious, you get CBC.
When you get curious, you get CBC. I like that. I see somebody's calling on line 7. Sorry that we have ended the live part, but please call 204-788-3797. And you can leave a message for me there, 788-3797. Faith Wendell joins us, host of Up to Speed. What's coming up on the program today?
Hello, Janet. A strong Manitoba showing at the D-Day ceremonies on Juno Beach. We're going to hear from a Cross Lake student and the Premier about why being in France for the 80th anniversary means so much to them and has meant so much. So,
what an incredible opportunity. Mm-hmm. I just imagine the history coming alive.
There is, I imagine there's a lot of very visceral feelings that people are experiencing, particularly when you start to hear about why D-Day was important and what happened there. So,
and hearing from the people of France how much it meant the Canadians stepped up on that terrible time. Faith Wendell, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up to Speed here on CBC Radio 1, on your CBC Listen app, on your CBC News app, 3 to 6 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Noon. My name is Janet Stewart. I have a team of people I would like to thank for all their hard work today. Travis Peterson made it possible for you to see us on YouTube. Thanks very much, Travis. Daniel Friesen, thank you so much for everything you've done for us technically today, like playing this music. Wendy Parker, thank you so much for answering our calls and so cleverly and deftly handling the changes as they come in. Nellie Gonzalez, Leif Larson, thank you for your guidance in the unit. You are listening to CBC Radio 1. Coming up next, it's Quirks and Quarks. Have a great day.